What's up, guys? Hope you guys are doing good. What I'm doing in this video is editing with Capcut, editing with an old version of Capcut 2. This is version 1.5.0. If you're interested in getting the all-free version that works better on older computers, check out the video in the description. I've already done a video on how to get this, but I got some comments asking about doing a little bit more of an in-depth tutorial with Capcut for people who are just beginning editing. So I hope that's what I can do in this video, is just help somebody out. So let's get right into Capcut. So when you open it up, you can go to New Project right there. That's going to bring up this user interface. With this version, you really only have this layout. You can find that right there beside the shortcut. You can click the media first, but really what that does is unlocks the docs. So default layout is a good place to stay. Top left, you got your menu. That's where it is. You've got your file import there, export. You can do your edit undos there, layout. Pretty standard menu. Not going to spend too much time on that. Under the menu, you have media, audio, text, stickers, effects, transitions, filters, and adjustment. I don't really use adjustment, so I'm not going to talk about that too much in this video, but if you do want to load a LUT into this version, that's how to do it right there, adjustment LUT, but we'll come back to that in just a second. So media, this is going to be where you import what you want to edit. I've got a finished video here that we're going to cut up, but you'll see that I imported it. Now it's over here in the player, but it isn't on the timeline. You can just take it, drag it down, and now you're on your timeline, you're editing. You can zoom into your timeline or zoom out using this right here. And let's talk about these four buttons right here. So you have your main track magnet. So when I pulled that piece of media down with the main track magnet on, it went all the way to the left. You're going to want to leave that on at the very beginning as you're putting your media in there, especially when it's just one track, because that's going to keep it from having spaces in between your media. But later on we're probably going to turn that off, and I'll show you why in just a second. But you have auto snapping there, so if I turn that off, and I have two pieces of media now, well, we're already going to turn the main track magnet off. That's what I was talking about. With it off, I can allow for some space. With it on, it automatically pulls it together. So let's go ahead and turn that off. So back on the auto snapping now. So with the auto snapping off, I don't have any way of knowing that these two media pieces are lined up. With it on, it'll give me a blue line right there saying that those pieces of media are butted up against each other. So that's a useful feature to have. I really don't know why you would turn that one off. The linkage, that's going to deal with effects. Don't really need to worry about that too much. But if you have an effect and you want to place it on your video, so right now this effect, this little halo blur, is on this piece of media. If I were to move this piece of media with the linkage on, it's going to keep that effect on that piece of media. If I turn the linkage off, it's not going to move with it. So that's what that one does. And then the preview axis is just wherever your cursor is, that's where your player is going to be. That's useful for quickly cutting out pieces of your video that you don't want. But personally, it gets annoying unless I'm doing that specific thing, so I'm going to leave that off right now. I'm going to turn my linkage back on. Now you saw me do a couple cuts there. That's just going to be the way to cut out pieces of your media that you don't want, or your video footage. You can do that by selecting your piece of media, hitting this split, or you can press Control B, or if you have two pieces of media and you're not highlighted on anything, you can press Control Shift B, and now it cut both pieces of media. So that is how you do that. Really simple, really quick way of splitting your footage. You can also go to this little arrow and change your cursor to a split tool. So anywhere I want to make a split, I just click and it's cutting my footage up. Okay, let's talk about audio really quick. So with this free version, you have a lot of songs to pick from that are all included. Most of these songs are going to cause copyright issues with YouTube. So if you've got a monetized channel, don't use them. If you don't care, enjoy these songs. Some of them are well-known songs that are loaded into this. But right there is where your music lives. I've had issues with that in the past for copyright, so be warned, but feel free to play around with them. Then you've got your sound effects, and this has a lot of sound effects. A lot of sound effects. If you want to use something like, let me see if I can find, I use page turn. So if I wanted to apply a page turn, let's do this one. I would just pull it under my main track there, and now I have a sound effect. I'm going to mute the main track just so you can hear the sound effect. And now I have a page turn effect, and you can also adjust the volume of that page turn if it's too loud. Most of the time around -20 is going to be what you want your sound effects, but that's personal preference, so definitely play around with the volume of your effects or your sound effects. So text, so you have your default text. You can just drag and drop that. That's going to be, let's not put a title right over top of the other title. That's going to be this right here. You can move that text around. You can change the font, the color. You can add animation, all kinds of stuff with that default text. Or you can go to text templates, and you're going to get all of these free titles. I mean, it's a lot of free titles that you get with this free version. Let's see, I use this one on this video, so I can put that down there. I can change the words to that title. If I want to have a black background, I go back to media, library, grab this black piece of, I think it's just a JPEG file. It's just a black background, and then there's my titles. Now if I want to put effects on that black background, I can. Let's do video effects, and let's go down to retro. So I can put these right here. This looks pretty cool. So I just applied that Tom frames to this. So now I've got a pretty cool looking title, but you can apply all kinds of effects to your title. Say you wanted to make it have the light leak, like the film, like a film burn. That's right there too. You can stretch this piece of media out. And it's just going to keep playing on loop. So there's some nice effects in here for free. So stickers, this version is not loading any stickers, but what's in there is like arrows, the subscribe button, that kind of stuff. I don't use any of that stuff anyway, so not a real big deal, but it's because I'm using the older version and I'm not signed in. So no stickers. So transitions, so you've got a lot of transitions. Transitions are used when you have a break in the media and you want to add a transition in between them. So I can put a black fade there. I can adjust the duration of that. I could add a old film transition. That's a pretty cool one. If it'll download, there we go. And you have pages of transitions to play with. Now if you want to do a fade from black, that's a little bit different. You're going to be doing that clicking on the media, going to animation, and you're going to find the fade in and out right there on the animation side. So if you're looking for that, some other editors you can just apply a transition to a single piece of media and have like a fade in. So that's where you would find that. Filters, I mean, it's overwhelming the amount of color filters that you have in the free version. It's awesome. All of this stuff is behind a paywall on the new stuff, on the new versions. But I mean, you've got movie filters. So you wanted to give it the, let's see what the Oppenheimer looks like. So that's like the Oppenheimer color grade. And then adjustment, I don't use this adjustment. That's just for if you've built custom adjustments for your video. So we've covered that. Let's get over here to this. You've got video. This is going to be how you can resize your video. You've also got your keyframes here. So if I wanted to be like a slow zoom, I could set my keyframe right there at 100 and then make that 125. The keyframes work really well. They're really easy on this editor. That's just going to make it zoom like that. Really easy to use. You've got a blend feature. Don't really need that. The stabilize feature does not work on my computer with this version, and I don't use it anyway. It just makes the corners all warpy. And then the canvas is going to be what's behind your video if you did something like made it small. So I could make the canvas a blur. That could come in handy for shorts. Over on the audio, you don't have a lot of controls on the audio. You have volume, fade in, fade out, and noise reduction. The noise reduction works pretty good. It doesn't cancel all the noise, but it doesn't make your audio sound weird. Let's unmute that and I'll let you hear that. So this is without the noise reduction on. Possible while using an iPhone. Then I'm going to put that noise reduction on. Possible while using an iPhone as your. So it just cuts down a little bit of the background noise. Very helpful. When you're editing your audio levels with this version of Capcut, just look at your audio waves right here, and when they start to get yellow tips, that's going to be where you want to stop with the gain boost. And you can also click on these two bars right here, these two sound bars. It's going to bring up your audio meter, and you're going to want to get your audio where most of it is between -12 and -6. And that's pretty much it for audio. Speed, you can adjust your duration if you're applying some 60 frames per second footage in here and you want to slow it down for slow-mo. That's going to be where you put that. You've got some curves that you can use there too. Animation, you have that fade in, fade out. We've kind of already covered that. And then you also have combo. So if you have a little piece of video that you want to emphasize with a little effect, you could do something like the little wobble. That's just another way to add movement transitions to your video. You can get into the weeds with that animation stuff. So that's where that is, and you have quite a bit of animations. And then tracking, the motion tracking, this computer, it takes forever, so I don't use it, but that's where it lives. And then over here is the adjustment for your colors. So you don't have a lot of tools with the color adjustment, but you do have the stuff that you need. You have the white balance, the hue, saturation, brightness, contrast, the sharpen. It gets out of hand pretty quick, but I mean, a little bit, don't hurt. The particles doesn't look great at all, in my opinion. That's not the best looking film grain in the world, but it's there if you want to apply it to some stuff. The fade looks pretty good. I think that just raises the black point of your video a little bit, but it can give your video a little bit of that vintage look if that's what you're after. Then you've got white vignettes and black vignettes. And then you've got HSL, which is your individual colors. So you could adjust each individual color there. So you wanted your green to be more yellow or more teal. There's that. You can do a lot of work with the HSL. And then right here you have the LUT. I've got this one LUT loaded in. You can apply a LUT, and then you can control the intensity of that LUT. So quite a bit of tools there. And I think that pretty much covers all of the editing stuff right here on the timeline. Let's just cover this really quick. You have your delete. You have a freeze frame feature, which is pretty cool. You can make a little freeze frame out of, let's put it on something where I'm talking a little bit. You could put it right here, add a little freeze frame. It's just going to freeze whatever is in your video. So I don't know when I would use that, but it's cool that it's there. I probably wouldn't put it on my main track timeline if I were to build an editor, but whatever. So you can reverse your stuff here. That's helpful if you have a manual focus only camera. You can get focus pulls just by focusing on it and then, unfocusing and then reversing your footage in the editor. I do that a lot. Then you've got your mirror, rotate, and crop. And that's pretty much it. So next thing we need to talk about is exporting. When you're exporting, you can change the title to whatever you want. You can check to see where it's going. I want it to go to my videos folder. You can change the resolution. You can go all the way up to 4K. It doesn't charge you, so that's another reason to use this version. You can change your bitrate. You can go all the way to a customized bitrate, or just use their recommended or higher. You have different codecs you can export in. H.264 is going to be your best bet. MP4 is going to be your best bet. And then you can make sure that your frame rate is the same that you shot your footage in here. So if you shot your footage in 24 frames per second, you don't want to export 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. It's going to look awful. And then you have an export audio feature here. Now what that's useful for is if you want to detach your audio and you just want to export your audio. It'll export everything you have and then also give you a separate audio track. So that would be useful for that, or also if you have something like a video podcast, it would just make you an MP3. I think you can even get a WAV file, or an AAC file. So that's a pretty nice feature in my opinion. And then you just export. And I think that's it. So again, this is just a really quick overview of this whole version of Capcut. I hope this helps somebody out there get started. If you have any more questions, I'll definitely be doing some in-depth videos in the future on this stuff. I want to start making some more editing videos. So hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you later.